The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to address the recent crisis in our recruiting, in our military. And it's heartening to see that the Marines have met the recruiting goals over the last 3 years and the Space Force since their inception. But unfortunately, it's not the case with the three largest branches. And Chairman Brown, I would like to discuss it with you. I mean, the Air Force missed their recruiting goal by 11% in FY23. The Navy in the last 2 years, 20% in FY23 and 36%, which is very alarming, over a third this year so far. And then the Army missed out over the last 3 years by 25%, 23%, and 16%. So clearly, this is absolutely unsustainable. And would you agree that this is this persistent recruiting shortfalls? These are have reached crisis levels, and it's an existential threat to our republic.
What I will tell you, you're right. The numbers you said aren't sustainable. But as we look at the numbers for 24, almost all the services are going to meet their goal. The one service that's having probably a bit more challenges is the Navy, but they're all at 90% or above as far as to meet the goal for recruiting for this particular year. So I do see a positive trend line based on our recruiting.
You'd agree, though, General, that if this is sustained, that we're in some serious trouble.
Well, what I would tell you is, we need to stay on the path we're on and continue the upward trend.
So with specificity, what new innovative approaches are we using in recruiting to ensure that this doesn't happen?
Well, part of it is we've got to be out and able to engage, and that's because of COVID, we weren't able to get into the high schools. But it's not just into the high schools, but it's how we do our marketing. It's how we engage with our local communities. It's how we engage with our influencers, whether it's coaches, parents, guidance counselors, to talk about the value of service.
And I apologize because of limited time, but would you agree that if there's school systems out there that aren't allowing the military access, then they should be, we should consider withholding federal funding?
Well, I'm not going to tell you how best to do it, but I think we should have access to those schools because as an all-volunteer force, and our service members help protect their rights.
So when I read you and the Secretary's written statements and heard your testimony this earlier today, there were some really neat buzzwords. Most formidable fighting force in history, a strategic approach. We're going to strengthen our integrated deterrence. We're going to confront threats. We're going to fight and win. We're going to hone warfighting skills. We're going to have strategic imperatives. We're going to face rapidly evolving threats. We're going to defeat those threats. We're going to outpace our competitors and unparalleled combat capabilities across all domains. All these things that sound great. And then the best possible stewards of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. We have to be those stewards. So I want to bring to your attention, Secretary Austin, an article that was written by the Department of Army on June 22nd, 2023, and a tweet that the DOD sent out on July 2nd of last year. And it's a tweet of a biological man who's now, I'm sure, I would imagine, being held to dress and physical fitness standards of a woman. And the quote on the tweet said, "Major Rachel Jones found solace after coming out as a transgender female. Her journey from battling depression and suicidal thoughts to embracing authenticity inspires us all." So my question is, why would Major Jones have been elevated above all of the other roughly 1.4 million active duty service members and given the honor of this visible recognition and thrust out to the world as the face of the United States military on the 2nd of July of last year? Was it an act of heroism? Was valor on display? Was it a commitment to world-class fitness? That doesn't look like it. Was it a tremendous achievement or elite leadership? Or was it simply that there was a biological man who wants to be a woman and wave political flags while in uniform?
I'm not familiar with Major Jones's case, but I certainly will become so. Again, and whether or not the major was elevated for recognition or reward over others.
Well, the tweet, Secretary, was just about being transgender. There wasn't anything about coming up with an incredible cyber security program to protect it. It was just simply that Major Jones is transgender, above all 1.4 million others.
And so you're implying that that the major was
elevated above everyone
elevated
else.
over other troops because
if Major Jones did something excellent, then I could care less. But it was simply a political statement, and I'm sure the communists in Beijing are quaking in their boots and now won't invade Taiwan because Rachel has authenticity. Or heck, there could be a unilateral withdrawal by the Russians from Ukraine because Rachel's so inspiring. I mean, we got to focus more on projecting power and a hell of a lot less on projecting pronouns. I yield back.
Again,
Chairman's time's
I'd like to answer that.
Gentleman's time's expired.